I'm Cece Budmeyer, and I am the Regent or President of the Norfolk Mace Chapter, National Society Daughters of the American Colonists. We come here today to honor and remember the event inscribed at the base of this cross. Here at Cape Henry, first landed in America upon 26 April 1607, those English colonists who upon 13 May 1607 established at Jamestown, Virginia, the first permanent English settlement in America.
Good afternoon, my name is Lieutenant Colonel Paul Fish and I'm a British Army officer. I work at NATO headquarters in Norfolk. I'm here today to commemorate the first landing by English colonists on these shores in 1607. It's very important from my perspective to remember something like this, as it seems to be that Jamestown and the historic triangle have taken over the precedence for remembering the beginnings of America. As you can imagine, and looking around today with the numbers that are here, the actual first landing took place at Cape Henry, and it wasn't until the 13th of May that those brave adventurers in those three ships moved up and established Jamestown as a colony. So from my perspective, to be asked here today to speak at the commemoration is an honour, and one that I think other British officers will get the opportunity to do in the future. The key, from my perspective, is being jovial and light with the presentation that I'll give, meanwhile honouring the descendants and the following colonists that have made America into what it is today. Thank you.
This is a celebration as well as a commemoration of the first landing by the British explorers, let's call them, who came here and sailed on to found Jamestown, the first permanent English settlement. What many people don't realize is that many of our best traditions in the United States come from here, and they all started here in Virginia Beach in 1607 when those first colonists came aboard here, or came ashore here, and discovered a wonderful land rich in oysters and berries and fresh water, and knew they wanted to be here until that evening when there was an Indian attack and one of their company was grievously wounded. They had to decide, were they going to stay here in an area just about 20 years after the lost colony and face Indian attacks and hard times or what? And they chose to be here. They went back to their ships, they opened their sealed orders and found that one of the three men who was to rule them was in the brig. He was Captain John Smith. They released him, showing the beginning of our faith in law and our rules of order. And that night, the three of them, the men that were going to rule the Council of Five, I said three, but of that number, they were going to elect their own leader. That's the beginning of democracy. And of course, the role of faith is seen by the cross they brought back when they came back to shore, is right behind us in a monument given to the nation in 1935 by the Daughters of the American Colonists.
It really is a pleasure for me to be here, and also to thank you and everyone here for doing everything they can to preserve our history, remember our history. And as we read this proclamation, you see there's a tremendous amount of history that started here in Virginia Beach in this country, so it's something I'll be very proud of. Whereas, after sailing for more than 4 months aboard the Susan Constant, the Gadsby, and the Mississippi Library, English colonists bound for the New World first made landfall in Virginia Beach, Virginia on Saturday, April 26, 1607. And whereas Captain George Percy describes the land as fair meadows and godly tall trees, with such fresh waters running through wood as I almost ravished at the first sight thereof. And whereas they explored the area and set up a wooden cross on the sand and named the site Cape Henry after the son of King James of England, claiming the land for God and King. And whereas the memorial marks the first landing of what would become the United States of America. Whereas, these same settlers went on to found the first permanent English settlement in the New World at Jamestown, Virginia. And whereas in 1935, a stone cross was erected by the National Society Daughters of the American Colonists in memory of the first colonists to our shores. And whereas in 1981, through the efforts of the Army, the Park Service, and the City of Virginia Beach, the cross was relocated to the land side to prevent its possible loss by erosion. And whereas today, the Cape Henry Memorial is located within Joint Expeditionary Base Fort Story on ground do hereby proclaim April 27, 2014, 96th service of the first landing at the Cape River War in Virginia Beach, and I call upon all citizens in Virginia Beach to become better knowledgeable about the wealth of history in our area.
We will also miss such uniquely American delights as corn dogs, Converse shoes, Krispy Kreme donuts, Jolly Ranchers, and pretty much everything on the menu at the Cheesecake Factory. Then there are the US Weekly and People magazines with their wildly inaccurate headlines about our royal family. Turning to the weather, everyone thinks the British are compulsive in talking about the weather. I have news for you guys. The US is worse. I didn't know there were so many ways to describe rain, snow, and ice. And you even have your own dedicated weather channel.